I came to cast fire upon the earth, and would that it were already kindled. I have a baptism to be baptized with, and how I am constrained until it is accomplished. Do you think that I have come to give peace on earth? No, I tell you, but rather division. For henceforth in one house there will be 5 divided, 3 against 2, and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son, and son against father, mother against daughter, and daughter against her mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law, and daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. He also said to the multitudes, When you see a cloud rising in the west, you say at once, a shower is coming, and so it happens. And when you see the south wind blowing, you say, there will be scorching heat, and it happens. You hypocrites, you know how to interpret the appearance of earth and sky, but why do you not know how to interpret the present time?
In the days when I was lecturing at a theological college, I once did the following exercise with a group of students. I put them into small groups and asked them to come up with a short sentence or series of words that summed up what they regarded as the very core of the message of Jesus. And when we compared results, we found that the groups had all come up with very similar answers along the lines, Jesus demonstrated the boundless love of God for all. He brought love and peace and reconciliation into the world. He healed broken lives and broken relationships. I then set before them the passage that we heard a moment ago. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. No, I tell you, but rather division. For henceforth in one house there will be 5 divided, 3 against 2 and 2 against 3. They will be divided, father against son and son against father, mother against daughter and daughter against her mother, mother-in-law against her daughter-in-law and daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. Okay, I said, so what about this passage? How does this saying of Jesus fit with all that you've just told me? There was a rather awkward silence, after which it became clear that not only were most of them very rattled by what I'd done in confronting them with that particular gospel passage, but some of them were actually quite angry, because it was such an uncomfortable text for them. It seemed to contradict everything that they believed and held dear about the Christian faith. They really didn't want to be reminded that it was there, so they reacted with extreme annoyance when I made them look at it. This very perplexing gospel passage is one of a number of biblical texts, sometimes referred to as the hard sayings of Jesus. Hard, both in the sense that they are difficult to understand, but also because they seem so harsh and uncompromising. Indeed, that bewildering passage in which Jesus says things like, whoever comes to me and does not hate father and mother, wife and children, brothers and sisters, yes, and even life itself cannot be my disciple. Passages like that, what on earth are we supposed to make of them? Some years ago, a friend of mine told me the following story. Her husband was appointed to a new job, and the particular office in which he went to work had a very genial atmosphere. Many of his new colleagues had worked there for years and were very comfortable there. However, it didn't take him long to discover that it was also an environment in which a good deal of what one might describe as low-level corruption was rife. Corners were cut, expenses were fiddled, statistics were routinely massaged. One employee routinely went off sick every time there was a test match, and much else besides. These practices were fully known about and accepted by the other office staff, who just regarded it as the norm, and they all rubbed along together very nicely, covering for one another whenever the need arose. But my friend's husband, newly arrived, found all of that both uncomfortable and troubling. He didn't make a scene, nor did he threaten to report any of this malpractice, but he also refused to collude with it. And that simple fact served to divide the office staff completely down the middle. On the one side, there were the 2 or 3 employees who had long felt that what was going on in that office was wrong, but who had felt unable to make a stance, so they just kept their heads down. Now, for the first time ever, they felt confident enough to voice their own feelings of unease. And alongside them were those who had simply never questioned the prevailing office culture before, nor looked at their own conduct self-critically, but who are now uncomfortably aware that what they were doing was unacceptable and needed to change. But there were also those office staff who were angry and resentful. How dare this newcomer disturb the comfortable little world that they had created around themselves? And more than that, his need for honesty and truthfulness was exposing their own malpractice and theft for what it truly was. Even though he was not being directly confrontational at all, he was simply conducting himself according to a different set of principles, which put theirs into sharp relief. And people do not like being exposed in that way. And when our feelings or our negligence or our bad conduct are brought into the light of day, we have a choice. We can respond by acknowledging our shortcomings and setting out to change how we act and what we are. Or we can respond with resentment and anger. And I think that it is that kind of issue that helps us to understand what lies at the heart of today's rather perplexing reading. Because Jesus brought judgment, sometimes very directly and overtly, such as in his overturning of the moneylenders' tables in the temple. But he also did so in a much more subtle way, because Jesus brought judgment simply by being. His integrity of life, his refusal to collude with the harmful and life-denying assumptions and practices of his culture, including its religious practices, made many of his contemporaries, especially the religious authorities, very angry indeed, because the light that he shone into the lives of those whom he encountered revealed the extent of the darkness within. And there were those who did not like that one bit, which explains why people react to Jesus in such extreme ways. Either they give the whole of their lives to him, regardless of the cost, or they set about trying to destroy him, because what he threatens to expose strikes terror into their hearts. And that is why Jesus warns his followers that his coming will divide a man from his father, a daughter from her mother, a daughter-in-law from her mother-in-law, not because he's on a mission to destroy family life, of course he wasn't, but rather because human beings, when confronted with the presence of light and truth, a presence that threatens to reveal everything, sometimes react in extreme ways to try to prevent it from happening. And Jesus knew that. So, how do we respond to the challenge of Christ's presence, the shining light that illuminates the darkest parts of our own lives? Are we courageous enough to recognise the power of his light and his love, and so ask for his forgiveness and his grace? Or do we reject the source of that light that will always threaten to bring to light the uncomfortable truths we would much rather remained hidden? I wonder. Amen.